Money, money, money. Money, money, money. We got that fly Nubian money. We talk about that money. We all about that money. Money, money, money. Money, money, money. We got that fly Nubian money. We talk about that money. We all about that money. We love our black skin, our melanin, always focusing in on that money. We always win, money never a thing, 'cause we hustling, always focusing in money, 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 money. We got that money, 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 money. We that fly Nubian money. Boss talk, don't it? We stack it up. We talk about that money. We all that money. I know being money. I know being money.
Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. So let's get into it. Conversations about Black motherhood often become emotional because they touch relationships, money, parenting, and community all at once, people. A viral conversation recently reignited questions around why more Black women are becoming single mothers and whether economics is playing a larger role than people really want to admit. Some argue rising housing costs, financial instability, and everything else are making partnership harder. Others point to dating culture. Y'all know it's a gender war going on right now, right? Relationship expectations, education gaps, changing gender roles, and shifting views on marriage. At the same time, parenting is becoming more expensive while economic pressure continues changing how people approach relationships and family building. This conversation is not about blame. We want to just make that as a caveat. It is about asking difficult questions and around money, relationships, and what support systems families need moving forward. So today we have our panelists today, starting with Miss Black Hollywood. How are you doing today, darling?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for asking. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yes, as I was telling her before we started the show, I love the hair, honey. It's giving bounce, voluminous, healthy, just looking gorgeous.
Well, it's my birthday week, so expect to be sick of me this week, even with some hair.
All right, and next we have Dr. Angeline of the Melanated Neuron Communiverse. How we doing, Dr. Angeline?
Hello, gorgeous queens. I am doing phenomenal.
All right. Looking good too. Looking good.
Thank you,
I like the side swoop. I like I love a side bang going on there. Okay, this queen's coming here looking good. And last but not least, we have Miss Dominique Morgan, healthcare professional, real estate broker extraordinaire. How we doing, Miss Dominique?
I am good. It's Wednesday. We almost at Friday, y'all.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So just preliminarily, what do y'all think about?
Hold on, because you didn't introduce yourself. You didn't never say.
I
You never introduced yourself. Even when you got on the show, you ain't say, "Welcome to Fly Nubian Money." I am.
Okay.
So we don't know who you are.
She gonna get me together. If y'all don't know who I am by now, y'all better ask somebody. But now, for real, Miss Black Hollywood gonna keep me in check. I appreciate it. I am Dr. Charm. I am a naturopathic medical doctor, stand-up comedian, psychic medium. I can see your dead peoples, and also a realtor. So, with that being said, I'm gonna start with Miss Black Hollywood. Miss Black Hollywood, what are your just preliminary thoughts on this topic? Because you do such a great job of finding topics that are really hot button and really impact us. So I would really be interested to know what you thought.
Yeah, initially I just thought when you see the video, it's just an interesting, it's not a conversation that we have not had before. And I think just as Black women, we've had this conversation when we're looking around thinking like, how did we get here? But when you start to look at all the factors, it's almost like as we know, the internet is not a real place. But sometimes when you're watching things and people have this distorted perspective or perception of reality, it's a little frustrating. So I just wanted to, if nothing else, I wanted us to kind of set the record straight and just really, explore what she means and what this means,
Mm-hmm,
So I'm excited I'm excited.
Thank you for that. And Dr. Angeline Dean, what are your preliminary thoughts on this topic, just in general? What were you thinking when you saw that we were going to do this topic today?
I too was excited because I was thinking this topic can go a myriad of ways, right? So because I've never had the conversation with you queens, but have had it outside, I'm real excited to see where it's going to go. And just like, Miss Hollywood said, how history, how today, how finance, like it's so much that we can unpack in this 1 hour show.
Yes. Okay. And then Dominique, as a realtor, you help people buy and sell homes. I'm sure you work with single parents and married couples and couples cohabitating. So what are your thoughts from the realtor perspective on this?
So I find it to be an interesting conversation as well. The way things are going, I do work with a lot of single moms. I work with a lot of women that purchase. I work with more women that purchase, honestly, than I work with men that purchase. So I'm looking forward to having a conversation and, kind of doing the deep dive and really kind of seeing what's behind it and what's the remedy to it, or, if there is a remedy to it, or what are people's thought processes. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. And then I just want to shout out the chat and say hello to the chat real quick. Let's go ahead and roll tape and go to our first video.
Don't forget to tell us what you think, John.
Oh, what do I think? I think, let's see, what do I think? I am a single mother, and I think that it is both cultural. I think it's the decline in values, but it's definitely an economic aspect to everything. And so, and I'm looking forward to further exploring this topic because y'all know I got my stats ready. So.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, here we go.
Black community. There are only 20 plus million Black women in America. Okay. There's over 100 million white women in America. How is it that single Black mothers in America is about 4.6 million? Single white mothers in America is about 6.2 million. There's 100 million of them, and there's 20 million of us. Dang. When you look at the numbers, right? When you look at the stats, you could ask ChatGPT, you could go look at statistics. All these women that most times are just trying to get love and end up with a baby. It's not okay. And it's not okay that there aren't mothers out here teaching women how to be responsible with their bodies. Look, I'm not saying you got to wait till marriage. I will never say that. I'm not saying you need to just be abstinent your whole entire life. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is be responsible, and pregnancy is up to the woman. And we have to stop pretending like your white value won't go down when you do have multiple children by multiple men. End of story. End of story. And this is why I'm saying people try to say I don't like women. No, I love women. But more than I love women, I have faith in our young girls that they can do better than we do.
Okay, let's just start there.
So I think it's interesting that she said that we control, having multiple babies by multiple different men, or we control access to pregnancy. We control our bodies, but men control marriage. And Black women have very, very high abortion rates. And in my opinion, abortion is not birth control. It's not. And so you do have to look at having, preventive measures and making sure women do have birth control. But there are a lot of other factors that are going in here about what's going on. I mean, women control that, but men control access to marriage. And I think, to me, it seems like she's putting the responsibility on women when it should be equal responsibility. But at the end of the day, men create broken homes by not marrying women that they impregnate, and impregnating women who they don't see as fit for marriage. Because back in the old days, they used to make you get married. They have a shotgun wedding. So that's my opinion on that. Dominique, what do you think? What are your thoughts on what she just said in that video?
So I will have to disagree with you, Dr. Cham. I do believe that we have more control over what happens. I think sometimes, and there's multiple ways that we can look at this, right? I think sometimes women think that we can keep a man by having the babies. I think there is a level of irresponsibility, because if you know that you're going to lay down, the baby is not the worst thing that can happen to you, to be honest. We're talking about STDs that you can't cure and things like that. And I think that when we make these, I think that we're a lustful society. And I think that instead of us thinking about wealth and us thinking about our bloodline and all these things that we should be thinking about, we thinking about that temporary moment, right? That's just like when women deal with men that are married and you go and get pregnant by him. What are the expectations? And so I do think that we have a sense of control because we can say, hey, not that you have to wait. I agree with her. You don't have to wait, but where's the protection? Like we're not having that conversation about protecting yourself and making sure that these type of things don't happen. We don't. We just in the moment. I'm so excited. I want to do it. My hormones are raging, and we don't think about the long-term consequences. And so we end up with situations where people do have multiple baby fathers and people do create broken homes. And it's all based on, to me, based on lust and irresponsibility.
Yeah, sexual discipline is definitely something that has to be practiced in these situations. Dr. Angeline, what are your thoughts?
So first of all, I don't like anybody comparing me to white women. That's number one. Like, so let's just start with that, period. Because I don't care if it's 80 million, 80,000, 100 million, whatever. I don't care. Don't compare black women to white women, period. Especially when you look at the historical ramifications of us as black women. And if we're going to talk about the young girls, first of all, a lot of them are not financially aware of responsibility. A lot of times, even if they are taught, there are still so many factors that I see in dealing with a lot of these young women: trauma factors, wanting to be loved factors, just trying to fit in with the crowd factors, and stuff happens. I'm not even going to bring up how many of them are touched by family members, uncles, mama's boyfriends, all of that kind of stuff that I see happen on a regular, where some of these young girls are getting pregnant by mama's boyfriend and all the rest of them. So for her to just make a blanketed statement like that, I'm offended by it because to me, you didn't think the whole conversation through. Now, am I saying that we don't have responsibility in some ways? Absolutely not. But to hear, I don't know if she was black or not, but to hear her just come on and make that statement and again compare me to a white woman, absolutely not.
I think it's an excellent point that you made about the sexual abuse, because there is a direct a direct relationship between childhood sexual abuse and increase in promiscuity. I think boundaries, because they've been touched at such a young age, where they dissolve, the boundaries are not there. They don't get to build those, so then they're less discriminating in the dating pool and this kind of thing, and that also makes them more vulnerable to predators. And there are predators. I'm not talking about an uncle or somebody molesting. I'm talking about these men out here that are predators towards women in the dating world. Miss Black Hollywood, what were your thoughts on the video?
Yeah, it's so interesting. There's so many thoughts going on in my mind based on what you say, based on the video. I agree. I was thinking about, as you all were talking and making your points, I was thinking about like how teenage rates are, teenagers having babies and getting pregnant has declined tremendously. Now, Black women are in their 40s have outpaced teenage pregnancies. So I'm not saying that we're not having babies, but I'm saying that we are buying a story, right? I'm big on storytelling, and I think that the narrative has been skewed a little bit in a lot of ways. We hear things, and I think they're part of an agenda to be like, black people so, and we just don't, and we never, and we're the ones that are disproportionately this. I just need to see where the numbers came from, and I need to see who was part of that study. And I would need to see all of that. I'm not, because, when I look around, when I even look on the internet, when I look around in my algorithm, Black men are taking care of their children. In my real life, every Black man I know shows up for their children. And I know we all are nodding because that's my reality. Right. And I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong. I'm not going to make it seem like there's not, the statistics are completely false. I'm just saying that I don't know if I don't know if it's that, because I'll use my own real life as an experience. Obviously, I have a 15-year-old woman. By statistical standards, I am a single mother. but I'm not a single mother. Lauren's father is ever so present all day, every day, constant, but he does not live in my house. So,
Mhm.
but he is her daddy. Like she is with her daddy right now, right. And so there's never a day, there's never a time when I've had to think on my own about what to do about the baby. We haven't discussed what to do on her behalf. He hasn't shown up. When I'm sick, he shows up. When I gotta travel, he shows up. He shows up just because he wants to show up, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of black men like that, right? And so
Mhm.
right, I'm a statistic, but I'm a single woman. I'm not a single
Mhm.
mother. And I think a lot of black women are having that same reality. I'm not saying all. I don't want to make it seem like everybody is lying, but I think a lot of the numbers are wrong, Dr. Charm.
Now that's interesting. I think, we there's definitely a decline in the marriage rate overall for all races, but specifically in the Black community. And some of the potential causes is in the 1970s and 80s there was a huge decline in manufacturing jobs. So a lot of those folks in the day, they could get a good job at GM or the factory, and you could raise an entire family, buy a home, even have a stay-at-home wife. So you had a decline in that. The introduction of drugs into our communities completely devastated our communities. Mass incarceration, and also women becoming more economically independent. We have a very high, Black women are going to college and earning degrees and post-secondary degrees at record rates. So, let's discuss some of those things as far as what are your thoughts on those things contributing to decline in marriage? Dr. Angeline, let's start with you.
We got to talk about all the systems and the interconnectedness of all these systems and how they affect us. They affect us, and infect us, right? On a myriad again of levels. And so we can't have a conversation without talking about how our Black men are arrested at those rates, how they're killed at alarming rates. And when we look at how they're even perceived and how Black women have to raise their children with that whole mindset of in constant protecting and fear mode. And I just want to give you a shout out, Miss Black Hollywood, for taking back the definition and how we going to define it. We get to define how single motherhood is defined. And I was like, yes, girl, make that distinction.
I'm a single
Yes.
woman. I'm not a single mother. I'm not. That's not my reality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then even when we look at the school to prison nexus, whose children are, when we look at education, whose children are targeted, it's girl, we could stay here for a whole 1 hour just on how the systems are designed predatorily and intentionally to come for us. So this is not something that happened by accident. This is something that this show constantly makes aware of. And then how do we come up out of it? So, yeah, I agree with what you said.
So Dominique, thank you so much, Dr. Angeline. That's very insightful. Miss Dominique, what, you and I both work in real estate. What role do you think housing affordability plays into this whole conversation?
I think it plays a big role. I have a lot of people that come to me that want to purchase and they just can't afford to. So imagine what it looks like in a two-parent household, right? But I also, and I say this all the time, like even if there can't be two family households, where is our community and our village, right? How about people buying, single mothers potentially buying buildings together where you can afford it and you guys can split a reasonable, mortgage? I do think that when it comes to the financial aspect, there are some women that choose to be single women, right? They, they want to have children. They're getting, they're older in life. And so they make a decision to have a child, through artificial, insemination, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of this topic, there are so many ways that women can be single, right? Because now we are more financially stable, right? We are oftentimes the breadwinners. We do have resources. Jobs are offering, for you to freeze your eggs and do all these things. And so have made the decision to do this, right? And so I just think that we just have to think about the how it impacts the child, right? I do believe in old school. I do believe that children need, and whether the father's in the household, like Miss Black Hollywood said, he's around. I don't know any deadbeat dads. So as long as children have both of their parents, it is beneficial to that child. It's where I feel like the negative impact comes in where the father's not there, but that is not what's happening. I don't know any deadbeat dads, right? But I do think that from a financial perspective, we could do so much more if we came together. But we are pinned against each other, right? We have these race wars, these gender wars, all these things that are happening that are preventing us from coming together, because it's like, I'm a man and I'm a woman and I'm this and a woman. It just makes it real complicated. And that, the traditional ways that did work are made to seem like they're a bad thing. I just think that if we get back to the basics, we get back to our community, our village, I think we could do so much more as a whole, and it greatly benefits the children.
Absolutely. Miss Black Hollywood, Black households hold a median net worth of $24,000, and it compared to $184,000 for white families. So that's a racial wealth gap. What role do you think the racial wealth gap plays in the increase in Black single mothers?
You're muted, I think.
I'm sorry about that. So it's interesting because at the time of birth, and I'm gonna just say this, in the United States, when men and women, Black men and women are born, there are more Black men than Black women born. By the time they turn 18, there's so many things that happen in between that time. Whether it's, like we said, whether our men go to jail, whether they end up dead, whatever happens. And so I would just say this in terms of wealth gap. Without our community being targeted and all of the things that we know to be true, I think that without strong men, without strong community, that wealth gap will continue to affect us. And like I said, I'm always a little weird about these numbers, right? Because that 24,000 been circulating for a very long time, but then Black people have $1 trillion worth of spending power. So we gotta think about and make it all make sense. I'm not saying that Black people ain't broke, but I'm saying that Black people got a lot of money to spend, right? And so I don't necessarily know if I completely believe all of the things, but I do know that without strong Black men, I know that there's a gap. So I'll just say it like this. Without strong Black men, and without us really trying to figure out how to keep our Black men alive and protect them, and really just coming together and trying to figure out how we can, I think somebody already said it, how we can work together, how we can actually be a community, how we can undo what's been done, right? I think that's the hardest part. It's like all of these numbers exist because we had been targeted as a community. Like our families literally have been targeted. Black men have literally been posed against the Black woman through music. We stopped singing love songs in the 90s and we became bitches and hoes and tricks and F that B and all of this stuff. All of that is a subconscious, right? Like you said earlier, Dr. Charm, what crack did to our community in the 80s, I feel like with millennials coming up, we're like, that's not going to be our reality. I didn't grow up with a mother or a father. And so naturally, for when I had Lauren, I was like, oh no, we about to get this right. Right. So I do see a lot of that circling. But, I think we just have to really address the history in order to be able to address the wealth gap and to address how we deal with each other and ultimately make changes. If I answered your question. If I didn't, I'm sorry. I was trying to find it, but that is it.
That is so valid. It's so valid and it's so multifaceted. So thank you.
I'm trying to focus because there's so many things you can say about this conversation. I'm trying to focus. Right. Yeah, right. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
So can we let's see what the chat is talking about. Let's hear from the chat.
All right, cool. You have a question for the chat?
Okay, Monique B says she agrees. Okay, Deborah. Hey, Deborah. Deborah will win 11. Anything concerning Black Americans has to have a special conversation. We are nowhere near ordinary people. Okay, all right. We are extraordinary. Okay.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
yeah, you know what, Miss Black, anyone else? Miss Black
Yeah.
Hollywood, I do have a question for the chat, just by stats. How
Okay.
many of you in the chat are single parents?
Mm-hmm.
Put put a answer with a one if you're a single parent. And I'm not just saying single women. I mean the single fathers too. So if you're a single parent, just put a one.
Okay.
We have our own informal little poll going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And then do we have any? Do we have a video next to play?
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right, let's
I'm
get
ready for
into
you.
it.
We're gonna go to our video created by our very own Constance Carter. Let's
Can
see
I
Thank
if
just
I
you.
add
can.
this while you're pulling it up? Because you said
The
something that
U.S.
was really
government wants to
It's about
penalize
save
Black
it.
families for
Hold
having
on.
fathers in the home, and the effects are still felt today. During the 1960s and 70s, public assistance programs such as welfare and housing aid included what was called the man in the house rule. Under this rule, a woman could not receive government assistance if a man, even the father of her children, was living in a home. This forced thousands of Black families into a heartbreaking choice: stay together and struggle financially, or separate so the mother and the children could receive benefits. For many Black fathers, this meant 1, being forced out of their own homes, 2, struggling with unemployment due to discrimination, and 3, watching their families suffer economically despite their best efforts. Even though the rule was eventually struck down, the damage was already done. It contributed to generational poverty. Instead of building Black wealth, Black families had to survive on unstable government aids. It contributed to fatherless households. This policy incentivized single-parent homes, leading to a rise in a father absence. And then 3, mass incarceration. As economic opportunities shrank for Black men, many were funneled into the prison system. How does it still affect us today? Well, Black families still face economic disadvantages due to lost generational wealth. The stereotype of the absent Black father was largely created by policies like this, not by choice. In reality, Black fathers are among the most involved parents when present. Government policies still shape Black wealth and family structures, making it critical to understand history and advocate for our economic empowerment. Well, what's the solution? We got to build our own economic power. We got to practice collective economics, invest in circulating our dollars within the community. We got to have more financial literacy, teaching wealth building strategies and dependency. And we need to have real estate ownership to secure land and assets for our future generations. We must reclaim our financial independence and rewrite our family legacy.
Give
Amen.
it to Miss Constance. I love it. It really struck me what she said about the government incentivizing single parent homes. Because how many of y'all seen the movie Claudine with the legendary Diane Carroll and James Earl Jones? May they rest in
Mm-hmm.
peace. That movie really soundtrack by Curtis Mayfield, honey. That was a wonderful soundtrack. But they talked about this. You know, she's the welfare lady. They're running around. The welfare lady is chasing them in the movie, and it really kind of put a spotlight on that phenomenon that started in the 60s and 70s. And so it is unfortunate that there are specific policies that have incentivized us to have single household and really have worked to destroy the Black household. Because let's be clear, you know, we have a legacy of slavery, and many, you know, the actual numbers of enslaved people who were brought over to America was only like 200 or 300,000. So, but at the eve of the Civil War, I think we were at a level of 3 million. So how did we get all of those people? One thing, you had Black indigenous people who were reclassified as Negro and enslaved, but the other thing is the breeding plantations. And so like places like in Maryland, where there was just breeding going on, and that starts behavior and that lives in the DNA. I mean, they've done studies on Holocaust survivors where they have gotten their DNA, and trauma that's happened to the grandparents actually shows up in the children's DNA. It's called epigenetics. So it's really multifaceted. But
Mm.
Miss Black Hollywood, what are your thoughts on what Constance talked about?
You just said so many things. Oh my goodness. It just makes me think about how nothing comes from it, even after slavery, even after all the things that we faced, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, Civil War, all the things. Black people still stayed together. It is really not the legacy of Black family to not be family. Like, we are a very communal people. we thrive in community. And really, since we've gotten to this land, or based on if you were already here, you, because I'm well aware that, you know, some Black people were already here, there has been they've worked overtime to break up, that to divide and conquer, and now they just use the internet to do it. I mean, I see the agenda as plain as day. We have these conversations, but I see it through podcasts, I see it through movies, I see it through music. It's just constantly showing the Black woman that she does not need the Black man, and I think that it does us a severe injustice. Or even if you tell people a lie, if you start a rumor and say, you know, Black men don't come home to Black women, and allow that to, you know, that to become the thing, before you know it, everybody's walking around like, you know, Black men don't come home to Black women. You know, I feel like it's been a little bit of telephone. I feel like the numbers have been like flipped around to be like, this is what it is. And then we take it in and we kind of like perpetuate it a little bit. And so I just feel like it's almost like there's mind games, there's a spiritual warfare, there's all of that, there's trickery, we're made to believe things that aren't true. So I think we got to be really vigilant. We got to be vigilant about just knowing the truth and understanding. And I don't know if we'll always know the truth, Dr. Charm, because of like how this country works and what's our position in the country, you know what I mean? So I think that's the hard part. That's the most frustrating part about all of this.
Yeah, I mean, with the music, I mean, and we are such musical and cultural people, but there was actually a meeting in the late 80s, early 90s, where they got the rappers together, the heads of the studios and the prison investors got the rappers together and said, hey, this music needs to change. It needs to say bitches and hoes and all this other stuff. People think, oh, that was just by happenstance, but no, you got privately owned prisons that they got to advertise. So how do they advertise? Through the music. Kill people. We got that young Miami song y'all heard, where all my scamming spend that, and I had to spend that money fast. There was a criminal defense attorney on TikTok. He made a really funny TikTok. He was playing that Young Miami song, and he was like showing his business card. I'm about to get a bunch of new clients off of this song, you know. So which is the truth. So it's really, and you touched on the music, Miss Black Hollywood, but I love listening to 70s and 60s and 70s and 80s music because it talks about love and woman, I love you, and even Michael being so big. I just read something that said that Lady in My Life, like they could doing take after take after take, and Quincy Jones said, no, Michael, I want you to beg. I want you to get in this song and I want you to beg her. And he said they got to put him in the studio alone, dim the lights, and Michael Jackson sang that song like he was begging for his life. And we can tell, okay, that's a beautiful song. You'll never hear that in a rap song nowadays. So thank you for that insight. Dr. Angeline, what were your thoughts on what Constance said? What stood out for you?
So when I had interrupted, that's exactly where I was going with the policies of taking the Black fathers out the home intentionally, right? And how many laws and policies and all of that. And I thought about even redlining, right? I was so super excited, did a project where we had kids redline their own cities and then begin to teach them about generational wealth amongst themselves versus white wealth that happened in their own communities. They were blown away, right? So now I'm getting ready to do something with the teachers soon with using that same principle, because a lot of the white teachers are not looking like us, but they run in to teach our kids, but you don't know the history around the communities that our kids are even coming from. So I'm doing a whole like historical Black city tour of the hidden curriculum that most of y'all don't even talk about in your classrooms, so that you could stop looking at our kids from the perspective of what has happened to them or what is wrong with them, and change it to what has happened to them. So I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I thought about Miss Black Hollywood. I'm trying to write notes, y'all, because y'all saying some stuff. I'm like, oh, I got to remember. But when she talked about even buying into the numbers of our wealth. And so I had a conversation with a group of women the other day, and they were having this conversation. And I said, but how can y'all sit there and tell me that when in one night we raised almost $1 billion for Kamala Harris, and it was us, Black folks that did it. So you can't keep telling me that these are the numbers. And then my other question I have for you is, if we could do that in one night for a politician, why aren't we? What are we doing with all of this money in our own communities? How are we building our own communities? If you could tell me that you could do that, so then it makes me think, where are your priorities and what is going on as well? And so even all of what we call internalized racism in my work is we got to stop that, because we're re-victimizing ourselves. So I was taught, we call that white injected oppression, y'all. Just a little term out there so we can give it back to the people who gave it to us. We can regurgitate it and say, no, we ain't dealing with this no more. We're not going to be like this anymore. And this is what, so we're getting ready to come up with a whole new mindset about how we're getting ready to teach, raise, and still not just even new, but build off of, I think Dominique said, build off of what we learned from our own families and what worked. So the blueprint is there, despite. And then I also think about, somebody said enslavement. Think about how they beat the man down so bad, how they raped Buck, the whole Buck thing around our brothers, that they did all of this stuff intentionally to create the matriarchy versus the patriarchy, right? And to do that whole division amongst of us. So we can't have this conversation without having all of this as a part of the conversation.
Yes. So I was looking at. Thank you so much for that. You like that. That's why you've got that melanated what is it? Melanated neuron communiverse. Okay, because y'all got that think tank action going on. So Dominique, I'm seeing Zerario 4444. How many fours is that? Comment that says, so we are only blaming external locus of control. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that there's too much focus on external factors versus internal factors?
I think it's a combination. And I think the goal is to divide so that they can conquer. Think about us coming together. Think about us having strong family units and communities. Think about how powerful that is. And the purpose of them keeping us divided is to prevent us from excelling and to prevent us from being powerful. Remove the father out the household. Make it where the mother has to struggle on her own and potentially she can't buy a home herself because she can't afford it. It's strategic. And I think that sometimes, until we are educated and we're empowered and we're exposed, we stay in this space. Because the fact of the matter is, like I just mentioned in the comments, I was raised by a single father, by myself, not a mother. I was raised by a single father. I know multiple men now that raise their children alone, but we don't talk about that. We started in the beginning when we talked about how, we're always talking about men not involved. There are so many men involved. Most men, I don't know any deadbeat, not one single deadbeat dad. But if they can create this narrative, and again, they can pin us against each other, they can cause us to be divided, they win. And we're no longer powerful. But if we come together and we stop with this foolishness and we fight and we build our community back up, we can be so much more and do so much more. They got us because of the fact that we are divided. And it started, back when they started doing these things, putting government things in place to pull the men out the household. It started during slavery when they separated the children from the parents and the husbands from the wife. And it still goes on now. And they do it now based on social media. Women are like this. Men are like this. All men ain't no good. Women are golden. It's just foolishness to me. And until we get to the point where we're stop having this conversation that means nothing, and we focus on ourselves as individuals, and we come together united, strong, and powerful, that's how we move forward. But until then, we'll keep having these conversations.
Wow. Miss Black Hollywood. So you keep your pulse on what's going on social media and online and entertainment, especially in the entertainment industry. What influence do you think the entertainment industry and social media, because I think at this point social media is entertainment, has on black male female relationships and the increase in single motherhood?
It has everything to do with it. Representation matters. I always talk about me reading the book An Empire of Their Own, and it's about how the top five, the Warner Brothers, all they started Hollywood, but they started it out of necessity when, Jewish immigrants came here. Americans looked at them a certain way. They hated Jews like they hated Black people. Well, they hated Black people more, we know that, but they hated Jews. And so what the Jewish people did when a silent film came out is they thought, with these silent pictures, we can show ourselves in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they did was they would make these little small films about Jewish people being like doctors and lawyers and businessmen and all of this. And at first people hated it. They used to be like, oh, this is fake, this isn't real. 100 years later, that was 100 years ago, a little over 100 years ago, that was like in the 1920s. So 100 years ago, it was a lie. Today it's not a lie, because representation matters. So I
Mm-hmm.
even became Miss Black Hollywood because of that. After reading that book, I was like, oh my God, like it was, I felt like representation matters. What we see is what we be, is what we become, is, that exposure is what we become. So if you keep watching yourself on television as somebody ghetto, oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
that's all the characters there are to play. That's what your kids are going to become, right? A hot Cheeto eating, bonnet wearing, whatever, right?
Not the bottom.
That's what they're going to become. They see Sexy Red, they like, I resonate with her, or whatever. So and we watch movies, and the same thing. You're watching things for enjoyment, but there's a part of you that is taking that in. Whether you like I produced reality TV for a long time, and I felt like the day I walked away was the day I was like, this is not contributing. Like, it's creating a generation of Black women who do not know how to regulate themselves, who do not understand conflict resolution. I mean, y'all, it's an agenda, and it's so real, right? Like, you're watching these things, and I hear so many people say, like, oh, I watch it for guilty pleasure. I'm gonna tell you, that's in your soul, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't even know why you crashing out at the when we see it on the internet. We see people crashing out. You like, why is she like yelling and screaming? Or why is he the first thing he wants to do is shoot because of what they're watching on television? And so I just think representation matters, y'all. Watch what you're putting in your spirit when it comes to what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're absorbing. I mean, Zeus, that's a whole nother conversation, but all of it is really to keep the Black community, I think, low vibrational, and it's intentional. Every generation is something new. Last in the 90s it was music, now it's reality TV. And when I understood that, I was like, oh, that's the last day I produced a one reality TV anything. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I feel about that.
She said she was done with it. I want
Done.
to talk about, and that's so insightful, especially with you having produced reality TV, because it seems to me like right now all the commercials in movies are pairing the Black man with a Black woman with a white man, or a Black woman with a man of a different race. You rarely see things with Black couples together, which brings me to the topic of marriage, because I think that's the elephant in the room. Yes, we have factors in single motherhood, and yes, Black fathers are present, very present, but we have an issue with the marriage rate in our community. And I mean, in the 60s, we had a higher marriage rate than actually white people did. We were at 60%, and I can't remember what the statistics for white people were, but we had a higher marriage rate than white people. And now it is like sharply declined, and 38% of Black women will never marry. And that is concerning to me. I do, as I said at the beginning, I do believe that Black men control access to marriage, because the man is the one who asked the woman to marry him. And of course, Black male unemployment is at about 8% right now. White male unemployment is hovering at 4%. And men who are economically unstable and financially unstable are less likely to marry, because they don't feel that they don't have anything to offer a woman. And then you have Black women who are going to college and getting degrees and prospering economically at record rates. It does create a mismatch. It can breed jealousy. It can breed contempt. And that's why I'm really a big advocate of hypergamy, which is marrying someone who makes more than you, because it does create issues. And I've experienced that in relationships where they secretly resent you, and then they start going and cheating and things like that. So it just, you just eliminate that but that's harder in our communities when, Black women, especially in the age of affirmative action, where it was you're a black person and a woman. So then that's, hey, we want to hire you because you're a double minority. So marriage and getting the marriage rate up. What do y'all think? I really want to hear what y'all got to say. What do you all think we can do to increase the marriage rate in our community?
Dominique.
I think that we need to work on ourselves. I feel like we spend so much time, men focusing on women, women focusing on men. And I think that we need to focus on ourselves as individuals. I think that we need to heal the issues of our heart. I think that we have to counsel. I think that we have to do those things to get to the point where we're in position and we're stable emotionally, because marriage is work. Like, marriage is work. And I've seen Anonymous in the comments talking about the women don't want to submit. And in all actuality, you have to submit to each other. You have to be willing. There may be times that your husband is down and you're up. And it may be times that you're down and your husband is up. But you guys have to be one, and you have to be in partnership. And people don't want to do that. Like, when you hear these young people talk, they don't want to get married. One, because a lot of them don't see healthy marriages. They seen certain things. They seen women abused. They seen men abused. They've seen this negativity, and we have to change the narrative. And I think the bottom line is we have to heal ourselves, and we have to do the work, and we have to go to counseling, and we have to have a true understanding of what partnership looks like. To me, I feel like we give more grace to friends. We give more grace to outsiders. We go to work, and that boss that mistreats us, we figure out how to still be nice and navigate that. But then when it comes to our spouses, we don't do that. And then people see that. And I think that until we get to the point where we're not fighting externally, and we're not even just presenting, a positive marriage, but actually having positive, successful marriages, people are not going to be interested in it. And people are going to decide that that's not what they want.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Shahrazad Ali, she said, Black men and women, the only place we get along is in the bedroom. And I just think it's such an interesting comment. Dr. Angeline, what are your thoughts on what we can do to increase the marriage rate?
Whew. So I loved everything Dominique shared. But what I have seen lately that's happening around where I live is married couples are going out with younger people who are dating as a means of showing them like communication, and they're having real conversations around that this is work, right? We don't get along. We're not going to pretend. We're not going to get in the car. If I'm mad at him, I'm going to tell you I'm mad at him. Like, we're going to have these conversations to show you how things can be done in a more healthy way. I love how Dominique talked about mental health, because that's really real. But even though women are making more money, I am now meeting more men who are stay-at-home dads, but still working from home, but still might not be making as much money as the wife, but they're still trying to work this thing out and make it come together. And the other thing about submission, please don't even start that crap, because we don't even know what submission means. Sub means to come up under a mission, and half the time we don't even have a mission for our lives, let alone a mission for our marriages.
Come on.
So you can't talk to me about submission if you don't know where you're going, because you can't take me there with you. And so and that's one of the things too, that even with some of the younger people that I see, I ask them, what's your vision? Have you guys talked about your vision now? What's your vision for 5 years later? What's the mission statement for where you're going? And yes, Dominique, just did a teaching, y'all, the other day about this stuff that they teaching us biblically about women is so colonized, patriarchal, and it's not even truly what the Bible says. So yes, we're supposed to work together, because we both bring strength. We both bring a unity. We are just as resourceful, all of that other kind of stuff. And you better know with the head and the neck, like, come on, stop it. We've been taught a colonized version of who women really are. And so I think that's another thing, right? When we get properly educated as to who we are as women and as men, and then as Black women and Black men, there's really no stopping us. We're going to be real dangerous then. And let's think about it. That's what they scared of. Somebody said about that unity. That's why they kicked us out of the doctors network. That's why they kicked, like they coming for us and on every level because they don't want to see us unified.
Okay, see, this is the melanated neuron community. She think, take it. Miss Black Hollywood, let's hear your thoughts on how we can increase the marriage rate. And then I just want to do a cross section of the chat and see what the chat is talking about after that.
Okay, real quick. I just want to say that one of the things that I do personally, I can't really, I think you have to have capacity. I think you have to have capacity before you can do anything. You have to be preparing. You have to have the capacity for it. So what I do personally is I study marriage. I watch a lot of videos on marriage. I talk to couples. I produced a docu-series on marriage. I talked to 6 couples that had been married for 30 years plus, and we documented, we did a whole thing. Like, we'll have to show the movie one day. But I initially created it for OWN, but obviously they had Black Love on their grid, I think, at the time. So like we ended up just having this beautiful group of, I just learned so much. Like, we end up having this beautiful piece of work that I think that is like, they gave me so many things to think about. So I personally just study it, the art of it. I ask a lot of questions, all of that. So, that is how I approach it. I've not been so blessed to be, but I have a reason why I have not gotten married as of yet. But I think that we all have to kind of be prepared for it. It's not just something you jump into. I think you prepare. I think he has to prepare. You have to be prepared in order to really have a vision or a mission, as Dr. Anjali said.
Yes, I personally think we need to have mentorships. I love when Dr. Joe comes on because he talks about really counseling these Black men. We need to have mentorship for male, peer-to-peer male mentorship, and the same thing with female. I was raised in a single parent home, but I was exposed to Black families, married families that were very loving, and it very much impacted me and affected me in a positive way. Let's see what the chat is talking about real quick before we go to final thoughts.
Right quick, right fast. Okay. All right. Okay.
Let's see. That girl Bam said, Black people, in my opinion, in dating, we become exclusive too fast. Both sexes need to slow down and find out intentions and goals. Okay, then. And let's see. Anonymous is here, child. My homeboy was paying all the bills and his wife still left him because she wanted to be free. But divorce rates, a lot of times it's because women are doing all the household work. Now, your homeboy was paying all the bills, but you have households where the women are working a full-time job and coming home and doing all this housework, and it contributes a lot to divorce rate because men are not doing their share in the homes, and it's overwhelming women. So I just wanted to retort with that. Deborah will win. There's a lot of YT people who ain't married and ain't wealthy. We just don't know their statistics. Okay, all right, true that. And what else? Anybody else? I love
we gotta wrap this thing up. Well, let's get final thoughts, because I think Dominique has an early out, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Okay,
absolutely. Okay, right. So final thoughts. I want to ask Miss Dominique, since you got to get on out of here. Do you think that that what we have right now that's going on, do you think this is permanent?
In terms of single moms?
The single moms, the decline in marriage rate, however you want to focus, do you think it's permanent?
I think it could be, but it doesn't have to be. If we start changing to the narrative and start having positive conversations about male, female, African-American male, African-American female interactions, I think we need to get back to the old school. Back in the day when you had to court and you had to have a chaperone when you're courting the person, and you really have to get to know people. Because if you take one extra week before you lay down with them, because once you lay down with them, your views, you don't pay attention to those red flags anymore. You take one extra week and you get to know him. You're like, I don't like him. And he may feel the same about you, and then you can move on. But I think that we jump to full-time commitments before we even get to know people. And if we continue down that path, I do think it could potentially be permanent, because again, we have a generation of children that are coming up after us that are seeing that, and they're not interested in it. So what's gonna happen? They're not having children. These young people are now talking about not having children, which is detrimental for us. But we have to do something better. We have to start having better, healthier conversations about male, female, this submission and back and forth. It's foolishness. Everybody's household is ran differently, right? What you may like, this person may not like, and they're going to find a person that aligns with what they like. And we have to think about it from that perspective, instead of like looking at it as this grand thing. Well, my, like Anonymous said, his friend's wife left. That we don't even know the dynamics of that household. So we're running with that narrative, and we don't even know. We're not in the household. So I think that we have to start having more positive conversations about what marriage looks like. We need to really court each other to get to know each other, so that we can determine if this is somebody that I really want to be with long term. Do I want to make a commitment like having a child with them, right? Do I want to make a commitment like getting married to them? And then we can move it along. But I just think that we have to get better about that. So I am Dominique Morgan. You can find me on all social media platforms at the Whitmore Group, or you can go to our website at thewhitmoregroup.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ms. Dominique. It's always wonderful to have you, and you have wonderful opinions and insight. So, Dr. Angeline Dean, do you think this is permanent? Do you think this is a permanent situation? And where can we find you?
I don't think it's permanent. I'm praying and hoping that it's not permanent. But again, I think once, and just for the record, no, I am not a feminist. So please let me put that out there. And just, I don't hate men and all that other foolishness. And so, I don't know. I think, like Dominique did say, I'm hoping that it's not, and it doesn't have to be. But I just really feel like we are coming together as a community. I see it. Maybe I just see it over here, but I don't believe it's just me. I do see us. I do know a group of young Black brothers that's on point with taking care of their kids and being responsible for their kids. And let me also say, those coming home from the prison system, I work with them every day. They talking about what they can do with their kids and asking for help and for resources and for tools. And guess what? We're providing it. And so we're also doing those conversations around, this is what the brothers thinking, this is what the sisters thinking. Let's evaluate that, right? Let's see where it's coming from, because men do think differently than women think. And so I that's why I say no. I don't think it's going to be like that always, because I do believe that we as a community are rising up. And one last thing, if we're going to talk about welfare, let's talk about white women and welfare before we put all of that on Black people, because their rates are higher than ours. So that's where I am. I'm Dr. Angeline Dean. You could reach me at Intersystems with a Z on the end, .rocks, or info@melanatedneuronscommuniverse.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Angeline. Miss Black Hollywood, do you think that this is permanent? And where can we find you?
There we go. I don't think it's permanent, but I definitely think we need to make some changes when it comes to just how we're moving as a community, right? I think that Black women could do a better job of teaching their young Black girls how to date. You know, when I was a teenager, all we learned was like, don't have a baby. Don't like a boy, don't have a baby. You don't need to be dating no boy, right? And so my approach with my daughter was a little different, letting her get to know, have conversations or have male friends, or start to even like have her have little experiences where she can talk to a little boy at 15, and they start to have conversations around the things that'll come out of that. Like, you know what he said to me today? And we're able to make lessons out of the experience, keep it innocent, but allow her to learn while doing those things, right? And so I think we could just do a better job of talking to our girls about what the future looks like, about the goal of the Black community, if that's Black family. You know, we could just do a better job overall. And I think in terms of like when it comes to economics or wealth gap, you know, Black people, we have $2 trillion worth of spending power. And I say this often. Basically, we would be what is it, the eighth or ninth wealthiest. We are the eighth or ninth wealthiest country, right, as a community. So we got money. The problem is we only put 2% of that back into the Black community. Even if we took that up to 10 or 15%, it would completely change the Black community, period. We would have money. We would have money. We got money. We just give it away. And so I just think it's important that we just connect those two. The two things that we complain about, we have the power to change. So let's change it. If you're looking for me, I'm Miss Black Hollywood. I am the proud producer of this show. I also am a storyteller, a story selling expert, and I help entrepreneurs learn how to tell their stories, or just creatives learning how to tell their stories, to really monetize their life and their business. If you're interested in working with me, or you want to know more about me, I'm at MissBlackHollywood.net. Come holla at me. Come on over.
Thank you, Miss Black Hollywood. I do not think it's a permanent situation, but I think we need to get creative with the solutions, primarily economic. I think definitely reparations, definitely targeted economic policies for Black American people, foundational Black American people, because we built this country, and that would help decrease that racial wealth gap. But I also think it's a values thing. Everybody got mad at Bill Cosby back in the day because he was doing that tour talking about, pull your pants up. But I remember, like, we grew up poor, working class, but there was just certain things. I remember coming in to see my granny, and my skirt was a little bit over my knee, and she said, higher than my knee, and she said, that skirt is too short. Okay. And, now you got grandmas running around in booty shorts with their grandchildren. Okay. So you got to get back to some values, and we do need to have dating values and marriage values to say we are dating towards marriage. I was Muslim for many years, and that was one thing they do stress in Islam, is that you date to get married. You don't date just to play around with people and burn up their time and waste their time. And then finally, I am a proponent of the Black family, but Black women, do not limit yourself. If you have to open yourself to other people, I say other melanated people, rather than be alone. Okay, I have to say that. My name is Dr. Charm, and you can find me on IG at CharmGirl77. I just want to announce that I launched my new web series. You can find it on my TikTok or my IG, CharmGirl77. It's called Becoming Bougie. Episodes are like 2 to 3 minutes a piece. It's inspired by my dating life. It is not 1,000% autobiographical. It's a character, but it is definitely inspired by my dating life. The first 4 episodes are already up, so I hope you guys go to the IG, enjoy it. It is a laugh, it's a hoot, and it's quick. So I really appreciate everything. I appreciate the chat. You guys really make the conversation stimulating. Deborah will win, even Anonymous crazy behind. All the folks in the chat. At the end of the day, conversations about family structure are also conversations about money. People disagree on causes, people disagree on responsibility, but if housing, childcare, wages, and economic pressure continue changing how people live, then relationships and family structures will continue to change too. The bigger question becomes, how do communities build stronger financial foundations for families moving forward? Okay, let's do it. All right, thank y'all.